Well, not live, but we are live now. I would like to welcome everyone to this series of IFITT Hangouts on air, which are online conversations supported by IFITT, International Federation for IT in Travel and Tourism. The series of such online talks are leading to the next Enter eTourism conference, which will be held in Spain in February 2016. We usually talk about hot topics which are connected to the information communication technologies and tourism. And today, actually, we have such a topic. We will be talking today about MOOCs, massive open online courses within the tourism and hospitality field. And I'm Nadzeya Kalbaska. I'm serving IFITT as a General Secretary, as well as I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Lugano in Switzerland. Together with me today, we have so far two professors, which are experts in the field of MOOCs in tourism and hospitality, and we are still waiting for the third one to join us. Let's see if Professor Tadayuki Hara will be able to join in the next minutes. But I would like to start my introduction with Professor Jamie Murphy. He's the Director of Research at Australian School of Management. He also has been recently co-opted as a board member of IFITT, with his new role on helping IFITT to explore the developments of MOOCs. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Nadia. It's great to be here.
Our second speaker today is Professor Bruce Tracey. He is the Professor of Management at Cornell University. He's serving as an instructor, actually, of the course which is running right now, of the MOOCs course, which is Introduction to Global Hospitality Management. And we will ask in a while Professor Tracey to share with us his experience on running a MOOC and actually supporting students online. Welcome, Bruce.
Thanks, Nadia. Thanks. Appreciate your invitation to join today.
Thank you. So let us just start with the conversation on MOOCs and on e-learning in general. We all know that e-learning courses, they are actually rather suitable to train current students and the employees of the tourism industry. E-learning has been used in the last 20 years in different sectors within our industry. It has been used as an internal training for the employees of big tourism corporations, for instance, for those who are studying to work in hotel chains or in cruise companies. As well as e-learning or online training courses, they were used as the lifelong learning opportunities for those that are working in small and medium enterprises dispersed globally. We also have seen that in the last 20 years, e-learning courses were used by the ministries of tourism as well to train their travel agents and tour operators that are selling one or another specific tourism destination on how those destinations are structured and how to better sell them. What we have started to see in the last 2-3 years that actually academic institutions globally, they have started to open some of their in-campus courses to the general public for free. So such courses are usually massive, and as they attract thousands of students in one online classroom. We call such courses MOOCs, Massive Open Online Courses. And my first question is here to Jamie. How do you see the development of MOOCs actually within our industry? What we have seen in the last years in that concern? And what are the main research streams on the MOOCs agenda in the future?
Okay, thank you, Nadia. The first question, I think overall, the last time I looked, there were over 4,000 MOOCs on offer. And of those 4,000 MOOCs, 8 are in hospitality and tourism. So we're talking probably the hospitality and tourism industry is a little behind some of the other fields. Computer science, information technology, some of the hard sciences, some of the fun social sciences have a much stronger presence. So there are very few hospitality and tourism MOOCs for now, as I said, 8 out of over 4,000. But we have some real innovators. Tad, who may or may not join us, was the first one I know of to launch a MOOC, and now he's running his MOOC for the third time. And Tad has done that from the heart, if you will. He had very little support from the school. He just wanted to do it. Bruce with Cornell, they're running one as well. There's a few in Spain. There's an organization out of Switzerland called Flufel, but they're very few. As far as the research, oh my gosh, the research streams, the research agendas are huge, and I'll touch on a few, but I'll certainly forget some of them, I'm sure. One of the big ones is the pedagogy. There are different styles of learning. At the one end, you have the traditional cognitive behaviorist, where learners are memorizing a short bit of stuff and asking to repeat, exemplify, use that. At the other end, those are called the X-MOOCs. At the other end, you have what are called the connectivist MOOCs. And the connectivist MOOCs, the students more or less, the learners more or less, drive the agenda. And it's a very free-form type of learning environment, and those were the original MOOCs. The original MOOCs in 2008 were connectivist MOOCs. So one stream is pedagogy. Another stream is success. How do you say a MOOC's successful? Bruce has just finished running one with Cornell, and I'm sure he's scratching his head saying, well, was it a success, and how do we measure success? Some of the traditional measures we use in a classroom, grades, did they pass the class, may or may not apply to MOOCs. Nadia, one of your examples you gave me that I still love to this day, you took an English and a statistics class with no intention of ever earning a certificate. You just wanted to improve your English and improve your statistics. So a second research stream is what leads to learning related to that, what leads to success related to that, what leads to a certificate. And for those learners that do all the assessments, get a certain minimum mark, they get a certificate of participation. And then finally, the research stream that comes to mind that the admin folk are asking is, how do we make money off of a MOOC? These things are expensive to build. The numbers I've seen are about $250,000 to build a MOOC. And how does the university support that expense? So some of the research streams, what's the appropriate pedagogy? What are the appropriate measures of success? What kind of pedagogy leads to learning? What kind of pedagogy, what are the factors that lead to students staying in the class and getting a certificate? Or does the certificate even matter? People say, oh no, the completion rates are low, only 3%, only 5%, only 10% got a certificate, and other people say, so what? People got knowledge. And then finally, how do you make money? So those are a few of the research streams that are out there.
Thank you, Jamie. Do you think, what can be the potential subjects within tourism and hospitality curriculum that, on your perception, will see the hype of MOOC development in the future? You just mentioned that we have very few of them running right now.
8. 8, with a couple coming up later. Tad's going to introduce one, and University of Switzerland Italiana, you are going to introduce one or two. But I think that Cornell has done well to do kind of a global introduction to hospitality management. I think a global introduction to tourism would be a real good one. Okay. But I think the undergrad large enrollment classes seem applicable, if you will, for wide appeal. I think if you had the equivalent of a graduate course in research methods for the tourism industry, that would probably have less appeal. But I think the general type basic introductory subjects specific to hospitality, tourism, leisure, I think would be very good.
Right, I see. Bruce, do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I agree with Jamie. I think when you look at our respective curricula, one of the things that's sort of stimulating me on what's next has to do with maybe how we package the information so that it has some real appeal, both broadly but certainly specific to our industry. So I'm thinking about a whole host of operational and strategically oriented topics. So for example, there might be an opportunity to do an introduction to the food service industry or other segments of hospitality, as Jamie suggested. I also see, for example, in our experience, we had maybe four core elements, not maybe, four core elements of our MOOC that we could have easily separated as different or separate classes. So you could easily see that you could take an individual course in a given program, and that could be the basis for providing this kind of opportunity. So it's as as creative as you want to be and as far as you want to go.
Thank you, Bruce. Can we go on with you, and can you just present us shortly the first experience you had with the MOOCs in the tourism and hospitality industry, the one which you have just finished, for instance, and maybe the main lessons you have learned from this experience?
Well, I'll provide
and maybe a few numbers.
And maybe a few numbers, yeah, that will be interesting, I'm sure.
So when I was introduced to this possibility, we got involved in the second round of MOOCs that our university supported. So I was interested in before I submitted my proposal, hearing what the folks who had been supported in the first round would say about their experiences. And there were two themes that were raised. One is it was a heck of a lot more work than they had anticipated, and none of them would do it again. Well, I feel certainly the first opinion was something that I realized. It was a lot more work than I had anticipated, but I did have my eyes wide open, and I knew that it would be. But I am not of the camp that says I'd never do it again. In fact, I've really wanted to make this part of my agenda going forward. I think there's some tremendous opportunities that we have in online learning. This being a very great space that I've found, and I really would like to see if we can do more of what we've done. We had a process that started basically last summer, where I collaborated with three of my colleagues here to come up with a package of topics that we thought weren't necessarily comprehensive, but provided a nice set of complementary but diverse areas for folks to sort of jump into and learn a little bit more about. And then we worked with a couple different design teams here on campus to develop the course. And all said and done, we spent probably about 6 months of heavy lifting, putting together the content and coming up with the different types of channels that we'd be using and media that we'd be using for this particular course. And then between, let's say, the end of October and the time the course launched in, I guess it was February, we did a lot of quality assurance kinds of work to make sure that all of the bugs were worked out with video, and that we got the right questions out there, and it was formatted appropriately. And then the uptake when we opened it for enrollment was I'm not sure, Jamie, if you know how the enrollment process has played out in other MOOCs, but we found a fairly linear kind of phenomenon when a few people, and then as we got closer, more and more people enrolled in the course. And before we just got live, I mentioned that we now still have the course is officially, it's still open, but we don't have anybody directly facilitating. There's still people joining up. When we closed the course officially, we ran it for 6 weeks, and we decided, in terms of design, to put all the content out there at the same time, just to see how people might consume it. And we figured there may be a different approach that people take when they have an opportunity to experience it as they decide, rather than us putting it out there in a sequential kind of fashion. So that was kind of something that we learned, and I think that was an effective strategy because I don't think people in this space, and this is something we're going to test out, and there's some initial evidence that Jamie can speak more about in this regard, that fits with learning styles. Not people don't tend to look at these classes in the same linear fashion that you do if you're taking an instructor-led kind of program at our respective universities. So one of the lessons that we learned from this is, I think, packaging and putting it out there and letting the consumer, the student, decide how they want to use it is really one of the things that I think is got some traction, and we'll try to use that model going forward. The analytics are still forthcoming. We don't have a lot of information yet about the elements of MOOC in terms of how much time people spend on different components, but when the MOOC closed, we had over 14,000 people who had enrolled. We had about 10% or just north of 1,400 people who had actually completed the course and earned a completion certificate. And we had another almost 700 people who purchased their certificate for the verifiable option as well. So I don't know, as Jamie said, if that's good or bad. It's what we realized, and we'll use that as a basis for some of our further discussion and what we learn when we do some more investigation around the analytics to determine how we might want to package and deliver more of this kind of content in the future.
Wow. Bruce, if I may, Nadia, how of those 14,000, how many different countries, or do you have that information yet?
Yes, we had almost 190 countries around the world represented. I don't know what the distribution is. Most were from North America, from what I learned in the initial stages, but I don't have the breakdown. There were a lot of people from Asia and throughout Europe as well, so it was pretty remarkable in terms of the geographic spread.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm not sure if you have this information, but we also have a question from the audience, from Ace to Siadia. She's asking, do you know if the users are mostly well educated? So do you know something about their education level? If they're mostly other instructors which would like to learn something from the best schools in the world?
I don't know about the educational profile of the participants in our particular MOOC. I do know that there's a fair range. We have people without any kind of with very limited primary education, all the way to people with postgraduate degrees and who have enrolled and participated. I don't have the specific breakdown on that yet because we're still waiting to get the end result. But Jamie can certainly chime in. You've seen kind of an interesting phenomenon with some of the MOOCs you've analyzed, correct?
Right, and I'm using secondary data, i.e. I'm going to existing reports, but the existing reports are fairly consistent. About 1/3 of the participants have a postgrad degree, so master's or PhD. About 1/3 have a bachelor's. About 1/3 are below a bachelor's. So to answer the question, the majority of people that are taking these MOOCs, and as well as finishing the MOOCs, have a bachelor's or above. So it's a very highly educated market. But when you have 14,000 people, you still have plenty with just that are maybe even in high school. One of the first big Stanford MOOCs, one of the top scoring students, one of the top 10 students, was a 15-year-old boy in Mongolia. So although the majority of people taking the MOOCs, enrolling, participating, have a bachelor's or master's, there's certainly some people with just a high school degree or in high school that are doing well. And again, when Cornell's got 14,000 people there, as Bruce said, you've got people of all, you've got quite a range, and some of those people at the lower end of the range are doing well. Mm-hmm. I've got a colleague with a PhD that dropped out of the Cornell MOOC, so there you go.
I'm sure because it wasn't because the content was that challenging. I'm sure they had other devices or motivations. I will say that one interesting thing was a lot of interest around, you know, the way in which people looked at this as a promotion for the industry, and that was one of our objectives, is to put it out there, both to educate but also to promote. We know that this is, you know, if not the largest, one of the largest industry occupational groups out there in the world. And we also know that there are some image challenges that the hospitality industry faces. And what we wanted to try to do is try to create a message that said, hey, we're pretty sophisticated. It's not just making beds and you know, serving cocktails. It's a fairly, you know, complicated industry, and it really requires a lot of sophisticated thinking to be successful. And we wanted to try to communicate that to people, so that would build some motivation to go and seek, you know, either additional education or even employment opportunities. And again, back to Jamie's point about how you evaluate, it would be great, but I don't know a mechanism right now to track and see if those who came to watch the MOOC, if they are in industry, did they get their, did they have their careers advance as a result of taking this MOOC, or did it change something about their career development path? Similarly, did people who viewed the MOOC who weren't in the industry, were they compelled and therefore were drawn to seek employment in this industry? Those are some examples of application that we'd love to be able to find out and monitor, you know, going forward, to see if in fact these kinds of objectives have been met.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you for showing us these motivation of the course that you had on designing the course and promotion of the tourism studies to the industry. Can we actually have Tad who joined us? Professor Hara, can you hear us?
I see his beautiful picture.
Yeah, same here.
Tad? Can you hear us? Let's wait if he will be online. Bruce, I was just I had a question to you about the institutional motivation. So, were there other motivations of Cornell on designing a MOOC?
Well, the motivations here are varied. Depends on who you ask, which is an interesting question. If you ask me, the motivation for the university is to continue to extend the brand and provide an opportunity for students who maybe don't know as much about Cornell, or in this case, the industry, to get a little taste of what we're about. We really wanted to whet appetites. I know initially the motivations were to try to, you know, develop these MOOCs to get high school students to maybe think about Cornell as a place to, you know, go to get their post-secondary education. But as Jamie alluded to, most of the folks who signed up were not high school students, so they missed the market on that a little bit, and so therefore that objective will unlikely be fulfilled. So I think some of the motivations right now are to try to figure out maybe programmatically where the opportunities are to grow programs, where there's a lot of interest. As Jamie mentioned, in the tech space, there's a lot of interest there. So I think that's a kind of a gauge to see if we put MOOCs out there, people migrate and participate in them. That's maybe a proxy for, hey, there's interest, and maybe we need to do more of that both on campus and in the virtual world.
I see.
Bruce, if I may, Bruce, do you know if any industry, any particular brands shared this with their employees and suggested, rewarded, persuaded their employees to take your MOOC?
I do know that we did have several folks that the folks who the individuals who designed this program. We reached out to a lot of our industry colleagues and asked them to give us some feedback on what they thought of it, and they extended the invitation to others in their organization to sign up, take it, and from a curiosity standpoint, just see what it's like. I don't know what we got a lot of great feedback on, the quality of the content and the different elements of the platform that were both good and not so good. But I don't know if they are now pushing this as a piece. I do know that some are using part of our MOOC in induction, in orientation. So for individuals who don't have a very great or deep familiarity about hospitality, I know some organizations were infusing this into that initial onboarding process to give people who may not have a sense of what hospitality is all about at least a brief overview of some of the things that we incorporated into this particular course. But after that, Jamie, I'm really not sure how far they're going with it.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is really great, and that was one of the outcomes that we were hoping for as a result of this, that it would be repurposed for these kinds of objectives.
Bruce, I have actually a curiosity about the flipped classes. Are you thinking, or maybe you were using already your online MOOC within your in-campus training?
Yeah, I use it maybe in a different way than some. I'm teaching a graduate required course this semester, and one of the things I did is I broached the subject about online learning with them, and in the context of a MOOC, when we were discussing, the learning and development activities that organizations sponsor and support as a means for, ensuring people have the appropriate levels of competence to execute their role responsibilities. So that requires them to go and look at the MOOC content, experience it, and then come back and reflect in the classroom about the relevance of this kind of forum for promoting, learning and development. So I'm not sure if that's flipping the classroom, but it's getting the students to get involved in the content and see, as one example among many, of the different platforms that are out there and the ways in which we might be able to leverage this for this kind of use.
Thank you. Well, I think actually many educators globally might think of using your resources, which are already online, in their flapping process. So we'll see
that would be great.
What will be happening.
Oh, I'd be delighted if that was to occur, both in terms of maybe facilitating awareness and some insights around content, but also if you're thinking about the structure of these online courses, what we learned in terms of how long should those videos really be, what kinds of good questions can you ask when you have discussion boards, when you want to get feedback, do you embed a Qualtrics survey, or do you have some other kind of format that you use to solicit that kind of feedback? Those are really as informative for me as do people like the content, want more of this kind of content that we can build out in subsequent courses. So there's a lot of the way I see it, a lot of different ways to look at this kind of forum as a means for determining what's next.
Definitely. As we are designing a MOOC now here at the Universita della Svizzera Italiana, we are now looking the answers to all those questions. How long should be the videos? What kind of questions we use? I think we'll follow up with you.
Yeah, one of the things I was just meeting with some folks who were on the instructional design team last Friday, and I asked them, will the data that was gathered by this effort be able to show, for example, if people are watching a particular video, when they kind of trail off or check out, essentially, and yes and no, because you don't know if the video is going and they're really paying attention to it, or the video's going and they're doing their laundry or something. You just don't know. So we can't really tell what the sweet spot is on the attention span. But anyway, it's the jury's out, and as soon as we get the information, so stay tuned. We're on the instructional design team last Friday. Data that was gathered by this be able to show, for example.
Tad, can you hear us?
We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Can see your beautiful smiling face.
But we cannot hear you, unfortunately. Tad?
If I may, following up on some of Bruce's comments while we're hoping that Tad can kick in, and Tad, if you can hear me, kick in anytime. One of the original founders of Coursera, he views these MOOCs as a large learning laboratory, and he sees MOOCs as a way to experiment on what works best for learning. So like Bruce's MOOC, Cornell's MOOC with 14,000 students, it gives you a huge opportunity to see, and you've got such big numbers and such big data sets. So this particular professor at Coursera found that only a few students were getting one assignment right, and most of the students were missing it. So he emailed the students that were getting it right, and they said, oh yeah, there's a blog that explains how to do it. And so the professor went to the blog, pointed the rest of the students to the blog, and then all of a sudden the students got it. So they're a great opportunity for improving your learning, if you will. And I can see the emotion in Bruce's face when he talks about what's next and how they're learning and what they're going to do next. So I just find this very exciting. And Tad, he's done MOOCs 3 times in a row now, and he must have these things down to a fine art.
Unfortunately, we still can hear him. Tad? We can see you.
Oh.
I think, yeah. We have some problems with technology.
Yeah. Bruce, did you guys run into
late night
any
in Japan.
Did you run into any technology problems, Bruce? During your MOOC, did you?
No, nothing in particular. Just some of the ways in which, for example, we had set up the posting process for the online discussions. In some cases, you know, when our teaching assistants went in to sort of monitor what people were saying, they didn't pin, for example, the topics in a way that made it easy. Provided commentary on a particular issue or subject item. So it was what does it say?
Microphone muted by IFITT.
Some of the ways in which, for example,
Tad, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but
that's great. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, I hear you.
Welcome, Tad.
So,
just a second.
Microphone muted by IFITT.
Yes.
it's like its connection isn't that
You hear me? Hear me?
Yes, we can. You can.
Okay.
Tad, can you share with us the experience you had with the MOOC development?
Mike.
Your micro is on. You can talk.
Yes. Okay. My MOOC, I've been teaching. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, I have taught twice before, and I'm teaching the third one now. First one was the internet. So first one was 2013.
Tad, I think we lost your voice again, unfortunately. Tad, we lost you again. Jamie and Bruce.
Yes.
Are you still here, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we just go to the engagement of students quickly? And Bruce, do you have, or can you share with us a few techniques you have used to engage and to keep students longer in the course? We have heard that only 10% have remained until the end of it.
Yes, one of the things that we knew that many of the individuals who were participating in this MOOC didn't want to hear was a bunch of stodgy old professors talking about, content that we facilitate in our on-campus program. So one of the things that we thought would be to make sure we had a real connection to industry. So one of the things when we had some of our content, it was designed to really bring the industry into perspective. So we brought in some of our industry colleagues, and a lot of our videos, for example, featured leaders in the industry or people who are practicing managers talk a little bit about their experiences, and I think that gave people a little bit more of a connection to the real world than otherwise. We wanted to make
Bruce, we lost you. Bruce? Jamie, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still there.
I think we lost Bruce as well.
Yeah.
That's the problem of technologies.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Jamie, can I have maybe the question to you, and it might be the final and the rhetoric question. Do you think if the future of tourism and hospitality education will be influenced by further development of MOOCs and online learning practices?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this whole idea, one of the things that we always talk about is lifelong learning, and I think MOOCs are a phenomenal opportunity for lifelong learning. I also think, and Bruce has said that people are doing it now, that industry will use these MOOCs as part of the employee training, as part of the employee induction. I see destinations, I see large corporations, I see them maybe not using an entire MOOC, but using bits and pieces of a MOOC. I mean, it's professionally developed education that's out there for free, and it's a great orientation and introduction for employees, for early students. So yeah, I think that they will be a key part of hospitality and tourism. And it's not just the students, if you will, but also some of the line workers. Harvard has a phenomenal MOOC on the science of cooking, where they have a series of world-class chefs coming in and doing the science of cooking. So I think you'll get your culinary people involved as well. I think it's just a while before people know that the information's out there. If you were talking to someone about the World Wide Web in 1995, they'd look at you and say, "What? What's the World Wide Web? You know, I don't know what the web is." And so it was really, 2000, 2005 before the World Wide Web became popular and mainstream, if you will. So I think we're in the early days of MOOCs, and this will be a silly question 10 years from now, but right now it's very relevant.
I see. Bruce, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's fine. We were talking with Jamie about the future, and maybe if you can give us a feedback on that. Do you think MOOCs will change the hospitality and tourism education, or will enhance it, or what will happen in the future?
That's a great question. I wish I had a great crystal ball and could read the opportunities in a way that would give us some good insight about where we want to go. I do think it will change the landscape a bit. We know that a lot of companies are moving to blended learning platforms. We do know that there's some better ways that we can integrate and utilize information technology in a lot of learning and development activity. We also know that these kinds of things can be helpful for promotional and communication purposes. So there's a lot of different ways in which we'll be able to, I think, use this information going forward to not only create better outreach and market what we do, but you'll see it blended into a variety of things, whether it's just-in-time learning opportunities, whereby we can put some of this content out there in a form that can reach a lot of people. Especially when we're talking about global issues. That creates awareness. It creates some insight that people wouldn't otherwise get, and I think that does have a strong influence on how people approach their careers, how they approach learning in general. And I know that this provides a platform for them to do that in a very customizable fashion. I get to decide how I'm going to use and consume this information. And when people have that degree of control, there's a lot of ownership. And when people feel ownership, there's a lot of great things that can come from it. So I see it taking off, and I can see it being used in a lot of different for a lot of different purposes.
Thank you. Let us just quickly go to the questions. We answered most of them. We missed just one, which is the question from netflights.com. The question is, what will be the tangible motivations to encourage students to join a MOOC course? Do you have any suggestions?
Tangible is a good one, but most of the folks that I think, and this is, again, speculation, many are doing it just because they're curious. So it's just an intrinsic motivation that people have for additional knowledge. There are others that would be motivated by having, a nice branded little stamp of approval from a given university that says you completed the course, and that's certainly having a verifiable document or certificate that you could take to your supervisor or boss and say, look what I've done to enhance my knowledge. Hopefully, those enlightened organizations will look at that and acknowledge and reinforce that kind of initiative. And that will stimulate, the motivation to continue doing that kind of thing. So I think a lot of it is, though, driven by just the desire by the individual to improve oneself and to learn more.
Right. I think we can be done with our first introductory hangout on air on MOOCs in hospitality and tourism. I would like to thank our participants, and unfortunately we couldn't hear the story of Professor Hara, but I believe IFITT might continue on talking about MOOCs within our industry, and we can organize another talk also with him. This video will be actually recorded and placed on the YouTube channel of IFITT. But if you have any questions about existing MOOCs courses in hospitality and tourism, you can visit the website of IFITT. We have a dedicated page which collects all the links to all existing courses. And this page is managed by Professor Murphy, who is helping IFITT and looking at the MOOC issue. I would like to thank again our speakers, and have a great day or have a great night.
Thanks very much, Nadia. Appreciate you hosting.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.